Faithful Responders consists of 2 deputies and 2 firefighters with nearly 40 combined years of service as first responders. Scotty, Jonathan, Clint, and Jacob invite you to listen as they discuss various issues that first responders deal with in their daily lives as well as on the job. The crazy schedules, training, mandatory OT, and the extra gigs provide little time for family, let alone going to or committing to a church. Their prayer is that this will be something used to help keep you encouraged and equipped in your faith. So sit on back, but don't fall asleep. Yes, that means you, firefighters. And as always, stay safe.
What's up, guys? We're back with another episode. We have a special guest with us today. He works in the same department as me, and we're all better than Scotty's department.
Who is
Always.
who is me?
Oh, Clint.
Oh,
I think they could
Clint
tell
is
from
me.
the little sexy cowboy voice.
oh yeah.
I don't see it.
Well,
Also, I have
you
mirrors
can't really
in my
see
home,
speech,
so I know.
I would understand why you couldn't see it.
Saying, I know what I look like, and it doesn't fit your description.
Well, that's why I call you Sunshine.
I mean, that's
Sunshine.
whatever.
So when I say that, everybody thinks about the dude on Remember the Titans, and I'm like,
Yeah.
nah, you don't look like that guy.
Play your cards right, I might even kiss you.
See, people who watch the movie.
Everybody else
understand
is just gonna think I'm weird.
Yeah.
And they're also not wrong. We got Mike with us today, man. We're excited. He was briefly a guest back at our Shop with a Hero episode, and we are finally getting him on just like we promised. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome you and appreciate your time coming up here, hanging out with us.
Well, thank you guys for having me. I'm Michael Salain. I'm, in my early 40s. Got 2 children, beautiful wife. Truly blessed. They're all healthy. Thank God every day for them. I work at Station 8 out of Grayson. Run up and down the roads most nights.
Oh, it's a slow station.
Brother.
I'm just kidding.
They no slouches.
I'm just kidding.
Hey, no kidding. They don't get the credit, but they stay in the road.
Yeah,
It's close to 23. Within numbers,
Which is one of our busier stations.
yeah. Where's 23?
Michael, how long you been?
Steve Reynolds.
Okay.
How long you been with him?
Almost 15 years now. Came on March 2010.
Oh, cool.
Right on.
Yeah. Have you always been stationed at where you're at, or how long have you been there?
Ironically, I was sent to aid out of the academy, and then spent a little time down Battalion 1, Station 11, and then came back, got promoted, came back to 30. Wasn't much to do out there, so I
He felt like he was working for Newton.
Here we go.
So I worked on my degree. Finally graduated college.
Oh, cool. Where?
Columbia Southern.
Nice.
All online. But
Congratulations.
thank you.
Still counts for those haters out there.
Why do you look at me?
That's the direction my mic is facing.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay. staring at me like, yeah, you hater. Yeah, keep hating. I don't
Then
hate it. I appreciate
about a year and a half ago, went back to Station 8 and just run up and down the roads, staying.
Staying busy.
Yes, sir.
How old are you?
42.
Where'd you graduate from high school?
Shiloh High School. 2001.
Hey, same class as me.
But
Yeah.
you went to South
I went to Brookwood.
Brookwood.
Yeah, I was over with all the little rich kids.
Okay.
Yeah, we looked down upon y'all.
On the wrong side of 70.
Yeah, we didn't. We were told not to hang out with y'all.
I know.
Yeah,
And we fought over, what, Chick-fil-A up there in Snellville?
We did. I did, though, in high school, I dated a girl from Shiloh.
Who was that?
Her name was nothing.
Butch.
We're not bringing that up.
Oh, yeah.
It didn't end well.
Great.
It's
Clearly.
Same old Sam.
Oh, it didn't do well.
Yeah, well, it did end well because
Now.
I met Megan. Yeah.
Right.
But
It's
yeah.
not what I meant, Megan. I didn't.
Yeah,
He
boy
was
in
with you,
trouble.
not with her.
It's high school.
It's a good thing we can edit.
Yeah. Or you might edit
I say
a lot.
we.
We might
It's a good thing
edit
Jacob can edit.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, so how did you? So how did you get into the fire service? Because if you're 42, you've been there for what? You said 14 years.
Mm-hmm.
So like,
Let's see your math.
well, no, but you still like, what'd you do before that? Because there'd be. What,
Oh, I
8
love how he
years?
diverts. He was gonna go with try to figure out how old he was when he started. I know you were.
He's 42. Oh,
Yeah,
you're talking
when he
about when he
started.
started. So it'd been 28.
You're wrong.
27.
He's 42. He just told you.
27.
14 years.
I'm
Do the math,
being a
Clint.
smart aleck.
Yeah,
Anyway,
it's okay. I'm
math
just gonna
is
let y'all
dumb.
know. Obviously, Clint didn't go to college because when I met him, he was at 18 years old at Walton County.
It's true. This is true.
Wet behind the ears.
Yeah. Still just as dumb.
Now what is he, though?
Yeah, but
dumb.
you work hard. That's the difference.
A dummy with a good work ethic. I don't even know about that. Anyways, I'm sorry.
27, Scotty. That's what. When
So
I
what-
entered the fire service.
Cool. So,
Yeah,
like,
you were
what'd you do
wrong.
before that?
After graduation, tried to go away to college. Lost hope. First semester, came home, got a job
Did you go to
at
Georgia Southern? Because that sounds like most people went to Georgia Southern.
And it sounds so bad. The Hope Scholarship is I lost hope.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. We might need to explain that.
Yeah, I almost laughed.
I think it was a 7 o'clock astronomy class that
Lost all hope.
Yeah,
Oof.
yeah. And I didn't
Hey.
make it out, and came home. Got a job working at the Camping Time RV right there in McGee in 78.
Mm-hmm.
10 years I spent there, and it was bought by a big company out of Chicago, and I finally took it upon myself I needed to make a difference, and applied at Gwinnett, and at the time it took them years to call me back, probably 2 years or so. Fast forward right there, and Lauren's 9 months pregnant, and they finally called. I went up there, did the PPE or whatever the hiring process. He was born February 18th, and my hire date was 3/27. So going through the academy with a newborn, it was trying times for sure.
Yeah. Megan was pregnant. I found out Megan was pregnant while I was in rookie school. So I can imagine having a little kid.
Yeah. Especially being, 27 instead of 18 like most.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I believe. I think I graduated mandated, and my little girl was like, or so while I was in it, yeah, she was like three months old. So yeah, that's a similar story. It's crazy.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that was fun. Getting up at 4 a.m. every single morning,
Right.
getting home dirt tired, and having to drive an hour away, hour back. Heck yeah, I'm there, man. I know it.
My wife gave birth to our firstborn 1 week before we graduated from the academy.
Gosh.
I took the final exam that the morning that after she went into labor. I took the final exam that day and then made it back to the hospital just in time for.
Nice.
Not because he's a bad dad, it's because they have strict rules where you're not allowed to even I just want to lay that out there.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
wasn't.
It wasn't on him.
It was not on him. I went to the same
Wait,
academy.
he's not a
and
bad dad.
None of the rest of us
Well,
even
no.
thought that.
No.
We were all like, okay, cool. He's
Hey, I just
providing for
wanna-
his family. He's
Hey,
a good dad.
I don't know. I want to.
Jonathan
I
goes
want to put
worst
that.
case
Hey,
scenario.
I want to clarify it, okay, for my brother over here. All right, for all the haters out there. So
Typical.
no, you can't miss. What was it? 8 hours total. You can't miss
something
one
like
day of class. Period. The entire length of the entire academy. I'm sure it's the same for fire or something similar.
It depends which where you're at, but yeah.
because it's all regulated under post.
Nowadays, we'll just take anybody. Just show up one day, please.
It is a little
calling
different.
sick now.
It
Well,
is
shoot,
a little different
yeah.
now.
They used to make us PT. Apparently now they don't. I think they just make them watch videos in the morning about PT.
The osmosis.
Flag
Like, they just kind of regurgitated
I mean-
through vision.
This is what you should look like.
I remember the funniest thing that happened in my entire academy. I'm sorry, I get right back to it. But there's this girl that got in trouble for running into the bathroom halfway through every single one of our laps. And she would run to the bathroom, then run across the other side to where she would do half the laps. She'd run half,
man.
go to the bathroom to pee, and then go back to the other side. So she'd do that 9 times in a row, every single morning. It was the funniest thing ever because, she ended up getting in a lot of trouble. But it was funny.
It doesn't work if you watch people working out. That doesn't work though, because I've watched Arnold Schwarzenegger since I was a little kid, and I will never look like that guy. So it will not work.
I mean, there was some other attributes that he was putting into his body. Just saying.
Yeah. Now it's Reacher.
Yeah.
Alan Rich, and I'm coming for you.
I just watched Arnold in movies. I never watched him working out. Like Kindergarten Cop. It's not a tumor.
Get to the chopper.
Come with me if you want to live.
Now what is it now, neighbor?
Put that cookie down now.
Sorry, Michael.
This
No,
train
it's
has
good.
gotten
It's
derailed.
good stuff.
Reel them back in.
So you wanted to make something of yourself, so you got into the fire service. And so when did you start? When did your meet or have the interest in Christ? When did that happen?
Early on, Scotty.
Yeah.
My parents separated, divorced when I was young, 6, 7. Dad was Baptist, mother was Catholic.
Oh, how
So
dare them?
It was pretty wild, pretty wild.
That's a
you know,
unique
so on the-
couple right there.
Dinner conversations were interesting.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
On the weekends that I would spend with him, I'd go to a Baptist church and come home and then go to Catholic, Catholic church Wednesday nights, Sunday mornings with my mother. So
Gotta love mass.
it was sit, stand, kneel often,
Very
pretty wild. But now, being non-denominational, we're it's home now. So
Yeah.
it's rather easy,
Yeah. Well, I grew up in a
Compared.
Baptist church. I've told these guys on a past podcast that I went to a Baptist church, and I used to have people at church tell me that Catholics were going to hell and all this stuff. I'm like, wait a minute, don't they believe in God? They're like, yeah, but they don't believe in the same stuff we do. And I'm like, okay. So I asked my dad one day, I said, Dad, do you think Catholics are going to hell? He goes, yeah, I do. He goes, absolutely, Catholics are going to hell. And I said, what? And he goes, well, there's a whole lot of Baptists going to hell too. And I said, oh,
That's a great point.
I see where you're going with this.
Yeah.
But like I said, it was kind of like the Baptist Catholic thing. Well, Megan, my wife, was raised Catholic, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And so she went to mass and everything. So when we got together, she actually only knew about Catholic church. She didn't know about any kind of other church.
It's very eye-opening for sure. I was baptized in a river in Tennessee. Preacher, lined us up. It was old school. Freezing cold, but that day was just, I was blessed. That
Yeah.
day, for sure.
How old were you?
9, 10. 9, 10. Somewhere around there.
9 or 10. Okay, cool.
I think I've been.
So, when would you say? So I know dealing with Baptists and Catholics, they look at certain things differently when it comes to like having God in your heart and that kind of stuff. So when would you say that you like finally accepted Christ, asked Him to your heart, and kind of had a relationship or started having a relationship with God? Or was there any times that you fell away, came back, that kind of stuff? Like, how did that happen? Like, in high school, were you good? Like, because I was a terrible kid in high school.
I was too, Scott.
I kept my faith, but I was ashamed of it in some ways, and I did things that I wouldn't want to do and felt ashamed of myself, but still did it to be popular or cool kind of thing.
I was very close to that, Scotty. I somewhere around that time, from the Baptist point of view, I felt closer to God. But I was terrible in high school too. Through middle school, being raised by my mother, stepfather, alcoholic home. Stepdad would, we would almost come to fist fights, here and there. But I felt closer, being in the Baptist church. Spent most of that majority of my time there. Wanting to turn 18 or maybe 16 was the age where you could choose whether you wanted to live with your mother or father. And I was surely going to live with my dad. But somewhere along the line, it changed right there. He was always invited to some of those events in high school, and he never did show up. And that's why I am today, kind of breaking that chain to be at everything the boys are doing for majority of the part. Set aside, our shifts or whatever.
Yeah.
But I do the best I can for them. And it's just, it makes me feel better about what I didn't have,
Absolutely. It's like I'm very similar to my dad growing up. They got divorced, his mom and dad, and my grandfather, his dad became alcoholic, had problems. He wouldn't show up much, never told my dad he loved him, that kind of stuff. And so like I always said, heard that. My dad always said, I love you, I love you, I love you. Poured into me, and I look back nowadays, I'm sure y'all could say the same thing. I have no clue. My dad worked 2 extra jobs plus the Atlanta Police Department, and I still have no clue how he coached me, was at all. I don't remember him not being at games, because he was at so many. I'm sure he missed some because there was night shifts. He worked night shift for a while, like 5-6 years. So, I know he missed my evening games, but because he was so involved, like I don't remember him missing a game. And it's crazy how he did that. And now that we have kids, I'm like, see how hard it is to get to all the games.
Absolutely.
And be across town and go to this kid's game and then try to get to this kid's game. And I'm like, how do you do it? Like,
The deeper I get into parenthood, the more I appreciate my parents.
Oh,
Stuff
yeah.
that you don't, like exactly what you're saying. Stuff that you don't realize was almost a sacrifice for them. What they've done to provide for you and just to be there means so much. And looking back, it's like, man, I wish I had shown them how much I appreciated it more.
Yeah.
In the moment.
Yeah, I grew up very similar, very almost like spitting image, like the exact same way, and with my stepfather, which he's making strides to try and overcome that, and everyone does because everyone. Oh, not everyone does actually, but most people who come to the realization, like, oh my gosh, I was pretty crappy. Like I should probably not be crappy, and so, yeah, I was the same way. Like I didn't feel that sort of love, that sort of, I saw it with other people, but I didn't see that, and I didn't have that father figure that would facilitate, God and all that. And that was never part of the conversation. and but my mom did. So I grew up like super emotional as a guy, because I had my mom to lean on in that sort of missing guidance, and I mean, it's the way it is. And ironically, God gave me all girls, which I'm having,
Talk about getting emotional.
yeah, I tell you what, and that's what I'm saying. It's the most like. It's like the most cruel and also funny humor like I've ever seen in my entire life, because it's like I used to joke all the time like I'm cursed, like I can only have girls, and my mom would be like, don't you say that, you're not cursed, God would never curse you with such a wonderful blessing, you stop that language, Jonathan. You ask her if she listens to this podcast, she'll probably snicker, yeah, I said that exactly. But the point is that it's funny how we become compulsive and obsessive now to make up for those traits that we miss. Same thing as your daddy, Scotty, and same thing as you, right?
Yes, sir.
Because I am that with my girls. I'm that way with my oldest, Emerson. Like, I am I'm every single thing that I can possibly be at, and I'm like, I'm obsessed to the point that like I tried to get her in the front yard the other day and was like tossing the ball. I was like, why don't you want to like? You seem like you don't want to be here. Like, you don't want to toss the ball. Like, I would have given anything to have my dad go, hey, let's go in the front yard. Let's toss the ball for like 2 hours. I'd be like, heck yeah, let's do it. Thanks, Dad. Like, let's do it. Right? And, but it's funny. Whenever you have it, you don't realize you have it until it's gone, type of thing.
Yeah.
But they will, it's kind of like what Scotty was saying, they will remember that. They will.
Well, and most people either turn the exact opposite of what they were raised, or if they were raised in kind of a crappy situation or didn't have like a very centered parenthood or anything like that, they'll either be the same when they grow up, like they'll be a crappy dad, or they'll be like a great dad, because my dad was like, I'm not gonna be like that.
You know what it reminds me of? I know I'd say this is one of those things where I don't have a filter. I promise I'm not gonna say anything dumb. But yeah, I am. Cloudy with the chance of meatballs.
Absolutely.
But what would?
No, exactly. That's what I'm talking about. He goes, I love you, son. I love you. And he's like, Dad, I know. You tell me all the time. And it's like, I literally was at a field trip with my oldest again today, and I was, I'm saying silly jokes, and like people are laughing. They're like, oh, stop, Dad, you're cringy. But every other few seconds, I'm like, tap her on the shoulder, or like give her a hug, or give her a kiss on the forehead, or something like that, embarrass her. But like that saying, where you're like, I love you, like, I love you, son. That's the way I am towards my daughters. I'm like, tell them that all the time, or kiss them on the head in front of everybody. Yeah.
You kind of starve for that, what you didn't have, and showing them that I care, that, like that, is maybe one day they'll look back and say, hey, Dad, you were there, so.
How many kids you have? How many?
It's just two. Two sons.
Yeah,
Jackson,
I thought they were both boys.
Jackson and Brody.
Mm-hmm. How old are they?
One's going into 9th grade, and the other one's going in 6th grade. So,
cool. So it's a busy time.
Yeah,
especially
absolutely.
with like
6th grade
sports and extracurriculars and all that. Man, that's like the.
Yeah, that younger one, Scotty. He tried this year. He went from football to wrestling to baseball, and now back to football. So he's just
trying to find something each season.
He tried all 4, and hopefully next year it'll slow down a little bit, maybe. But I love it, and I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Absolutely.
So, but starving for that, I kind of found myself once high school rolled around, and I became, growing into a man, manhood, or whatever you want to call it. You kind of saw your friends, with their parents, and I kind of flocked to one of my best friends, Kevin. He his dad was Gwinnett County PD.
What's his last name?
Tony.
Oh, I played basketball with him.
Eugene.
Tight end for Shiloh High School.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I used to love Kevin.
Played basketball with everybody.
I haven't seen him in 20 years, but
He he turns wrenches up at the shop there at the county. So
Oh, dude.
so I had to
A heck of an athlete.
get him back to you. Yeah.
He was a heck of an athlete.
But his dad, I give credit. I give credit to the Tonys for kind of taking me in and keeping me straight through high school.
Cool.
So,
I bet you we ran into each other.
I'm sure we did, Scotty.
Yeah. Because at Lenore, I used to play basketball with him at Lenore Park. We played on a team together for 2 seasons. Did you know Alan Booth?
I did.
So I was really good friends with Alan Booth, and he passed
Caleb.
away.
Yeah.
And I had no clue. I got off Facebook and had no clue, and then I'm out there. Because sometimes when I get back on, I'm not a big fan of social media because to me I feel like it almost causes stress being on it. But I'll get on there here and there, especially since we started a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember, it really hurt me because Alan was one of my good friends in high school because we played baseball and basketball and everything together. He was a great guy. And I got on there, and it was I don't know when it happened, but it was one of those times that I wasn't on there that much. And I was like, what the heck? And but it sucks because it's happened a couple times. I've gotten on Facebook and realized, oh my gosh, like somebody passed away or somebody's mother passed away, and I'm like, what the heck, man? And I was really sad to hear that. But I knew all those guys, all those football guys.
Yeah.
Like I knew those like Derek Cage, Mikey Bailey.
Yeah.
Like I was in class with all those guys over at Maxwell.
I got you.
Did you go Maxwell?
I did.
I bet, dude.
Law enforcement, Scotty. What'd you take over there at Maxwell?
Wait a second. I took law enforcement
In the afternoon or in the morning?
in the morning.
We may have been in the same class. I can't believe we turned away from law enforcement though.
Oh yeah. Well, mine was kind of. My dad kind of. He didn't push me, but he kind of like steered me into the fire side, just because he started seeing a lot of the bad and just things which I look back now and I'm like, holy crap, I'm glad I didn't take the other side, because from the time I would have started, oh my gosh, for the last like 11 years and going through all the stuff that police have had to endure.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, my dad, he even to this day he even comes up to me and goes, gosh, I'm glad you chose to go to the fire service.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Everybody loves and respects the police.
Hey, they love us way more, but there still are people that don't like us. I mean, when you're doing your grocery shopping,
That's like someone saying, "Well, I hate the color pink," and it's like, okay, cool. There's no reason why they just hate the color pink. Why hate a firefighter?
I've had several people come up to me at the grocery store and tell us that we were wasting their tax dollars.
Like, why are you here, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like the Blue Bloods episode where he's getting the ice cream and she's like,
I've never seen Blue Bloods.
I've never
but
watched Blue Bloods.
it's like he's getting ice cream. Some lady's like, she goes, I'm paraphrasing, of course. It's like you're sitting over here. You're like, shouldn't you be answering the call or doing something? And he's like,
we have radios.
Excuse me? And she's like, it's my tax dollars that pay for that ice cream you got in your hand, or your salary. I pay your salary. Something like that. Something innocuous and dumb, right? And he was like, you know what? So do I. And if it takes 2 seconds of me coming to get this ice cream cone to enjoy on a hot day, basically you shut your mouth. Like we all pay my salary, including myself.
Well, I asked the lady one time when we were at Kroger getting shopping, and I said, what if the person that needs help is here?
My God.
Then I jumped the gun. I was like, I'm right here.
What'd she say?
She's like, you need to start being a smart aleck. And I'm like, what? Okay, I can tell that you're just somebody that's not going to be satisfied. But yeah, she called me a smart aleck. And I was like, okay, cool.
You seem like such a sad person.
Yeah. I'm like, well, can you get out of the way so I can get my lettuce for my hamburger?
She might be onto something though.
Oh, I'm
Smart aleck.
definitely a smart aleck. Go ask my mom.
No.
So the Tonys helped you stay straight, and they kind of made you feel that way. Like, so after you got out of high school, you worked at Camping World.
I did.
I used to play at South Gwinnett a little bit too, up there at SGAA,
Mm-hmm.
baseball and football and all that kind of stuff, basketball. I played at Lenore basketball, but because that was the Shiloh, the entity. SGA was South Gwinnett.
Right.
So, but that's cool. Like, so did your faith grow? When is your faith? Because right now I look at you and I look at, man, like a solid spiritual dude. Like a man that really works hard, does his best. I've never heard anybody say negative things about you. So, like, how do we get from like this guy who's trying to stay straight, having some issues, trying to figure things out, to the man you are now? Like, was there a moment where God really stepped into your life?
Scotty, I questioned a lot. Every hard time. And now looking back, it kind of made me stronger.
Absolutely.
Like he was always there, kind of waiting on me,
Yeah.
But a good weight. Don't realize it at the time.
Absolutely.
It's a weight on your chest that makes it hard to breathe, but for a reason.
Kind of like right now.
Yeah.
But I can't say that nobody goes through hard times. But when you do, you question that a lot. Like, why me kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you can sit and feel sorry for yourself, or you can just grab the bull by the horns and try to do the best you can. I lost my sister and my mother. Maybe a couple years apart. Again, trying to grab the bull by the horns, told my sister that I would, work as much overtime as I had to just to get the help she needed. She didn't want to hear that. Neither did my mother. So I kind of pushed that blame out again, and it kind of drove a rock in between, our relationship. But looking back now, I'd probably choose differently.
Mm-hmm.
Do the best I can, but not kind of force, what I knew or what I ultimately knew the outcome. Being a big brother, I tried my best for her, but I can't say I didn't try, but I pushed her away, trying to force my hand, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
And then it was too late,
You still blame yourself for that?
I do.
Yep. You shouldn't. Because you said you tried to do your best, but in your mind you did your best. In the time frame, we can always look back at what we've done and say we tried to do this, but in the moment, sometimes the decisions we make aren't the right decisions. You know that in the fire service.
Yeah.
I mean, y'all know that in police department. We have to make decisions on the fly sometimes, and sometimes they're not the right quote unquote decision, but in the moment we did our best. And that's something.
Which is right.
Yes, because you don't
To us.
you don't know what the
Right.
future holds.
To us. Yeah.
You don't know what the future holds. So I know that that there's going to be blame there, and that's something that that the Lord's going to help you with and all that stuff. But I want you to know that you didn't try, and during the time you weren't trying your best, you were doing your best. And you have to remember that, like, you didn't know what the outcome at the time of certain
Mm-hmm.
things. You didn't know what the future held for past the situation. I don't even know how she passed away, or your mother. How did they pass away?
My younger sister was an overdose.
Mm-hmm. Which that makes, and now makes a little bit of sense.
You know, because I saw the signs being in, you know, the field we're in. We you know, you just know.
Yeah.
Mother didn't believe me, you know, so it kind of, I couldn't, you know, really say, hey, load up, family, let's go to grandmother's house, and because she lived with my mother, and you know, my mom playing mama bear, you know, just you know, my baby can do no wrong. But and that's where that blame kind of came in, you know. So it's not that I didn't want to be there, but I didn't want my boys seeing that, you know, that stuff. So
Yeah.
harboring them.
When did she pass away?
On my wife's birthday. It's been probably 5 years, Scotty.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that.
Mm-hmm. As, you know, I'm able to talk about it now, so it's getting a little better for sure.
That's one thing you never want to deflect. You want to reflect. So reflecting on that makes it better. I know this is a little off topic, but you know, Carter, that just passed away last year. So I coach his younger brother, and we won the semifinals game the other night, and he was, after the game, just bawling and crying, and he just standing off to the side, and I just went over to him and I hugged him, and he was just like, my brother. He goes, and I was like, we still got state to win. He goes, no. He goes, my brother never missed a game. Like, my brother was always here, and man, it broke me inside. And you know, there's really nothing. I've lost people, really close people before. I've lost family members, not immediate, like my brother or my dad or mom. But like, this is his big brother. Like, this is his, like, besides his dad, like, this is the guy, you know. And to see him like just crushed like that, you know, and he was saying, I looked up there and he's just not there, and I'm sorry. And I was like, you don't need to be apologized, but I'm gonna tell you something, dude. Like, this is good. Like, thinking about this, talking about this, crying about this, I said, no matter what a society or a man tells you, get your emotions out. Go ahead and cry. Let it happen, you know, because the moment you stop envisioning him in those stands and it doesn't hurt you is the moment you forgot about him. I was like, you don't want that to happen. You want to reflect on everything that y'all did, and you want to remember it. And yeah, sometimes it's going to hurt like crap. But but when you do that, you're remembering who he was and his legacy and what he did for people and the person he was to you. And I was like, you can't forget that.
And I knew that intimately. I was his training coordinator.
Yeah, you and I talked about that.
Yeah. Many conversations in my office, calls at 3 a.m. and, you know, good guy, really good guy. Yeah. I had to struggle the same, not the same as yours, of course. It's very intimate, very close, very harsh, very hard. I'm sorry you had to go through that. You know, when my father passed, it was like boom, 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 boom. You know, my grandfather, and then Shelby's, my wife's, her grandmother that she was very close to, within 3 years, all, and 2 within the same year, within 3 months of each other, and it was very hard to get through and all that for everybody. It was that weight that's on your chest. I know all about that weight, but what was cool about it was that I even know it now is what separates you when you're with the kingdom of God and you have the Holy Spirit that is affecting you and convicting you. You are able to recognize whenever you are
pulling away from God. And mine was like whenever I was in Thailand, or even now. Actually, I felt it last week. Whenever I was just like being negative and thinking negative all the time, I feel like foggy brained, literally. Like it's a physical manifestation of my separation, and I realized that. And that was, I think that once you get to that stage, and I know I have, you're able to accept things and let them go. Same thing I teach my girls, and it's very simple and silly, right? Very small things that I teach them about softball. And actually, it's funny because I convict myself whenever I say it, because I'm like, well, you got to hold true to your words, Jonathan. But I tell them all the time, and I even say it to her friends whenever they get all upset and they miss a ball and they get to crying. It's the worst thing ever. You think that they missed the opportunity at a big old raise or somebody killed their dog or something crazy. Like you would think it's the worst thing ever. And I say, you know what? You do your best and you leave the rest to God. It will be handled. I say it to them all the time. Don't mean to get all cathartic on you.
It's all right. I relate to that tremendously.
Yeah.
Had I just, I don't know, it had the faith remained strong, instead of me questioning, so much right there. It would have been better, maybe.
The journey don't seem as dark and muddy roads.
You're right.
Push
everybody else, push everybody away that loves you, trying to be strong about it, but
I'd like to say something. So I've got a long history of I don't know if history is the right word. Got a lot of addicts in my family. I've been on the flip side of where you're at. Feeling like I haven't done enough or said enough. And at times, like, that regret, or maybe I should have done something different, that type of thinking, that way of thinking, it's come up in my mind too. And so I actually remember having a conversation with my oldest brother, who is he's going through some stuff right now, but this was way back when he was really deep in addiction and had gotten clean for a time, and we were having a conversation about I just kind of broke down and told him I was sorry for not confronting him sooner, and trying to pull him out of that. And he pretty much just laughed at me. And he was like, dude, he's like, I was so far gone in my addiction. He's like, it didn't matter what you would have, what you could have said to me. It didn't matter how deep or how true or how honest it was. He was like, I was going to choose to stay in that no matter what. So I don't know if that
it kind of makes sense now. You realize there wasn't anything I was going to say or do to change my younger sister. Addiction is a powerful thing.
Yeah.
You don't see it at the time, but now I kind of
see it
in public. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
In public service, any sort of first responder, especially,
there's like a perfectionist sort of mentality that everyone has, along with like being the best and having to get the best done and save the amount of people and to be the hero. Everyone has it, they don't say it, but everyone wants to. Everyone wants to, and it's normally rooted in a really good place. And so you always obsess over retrospect, and you always obsess over. I used to have a boss that said this, and we disagreed on a lot of things, and I mean a lot. And I've talked to these guys about it. They probably remember what I'm talking about. But this particular boss said a few things that made sense, right? Maybe not in the same perspective I'm applying it, or that I apply it on a normal day. But for you, shoulda, woulda, coulda. That's what he used to say all the time. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. That's all he said. He wouldn't say anything. He wouldn't ad lib. He wouldn't add anything else. Add an anecdote, nothing like that. He'd just say shoulda, woulda, coulda, and it'd shut you up because you're like, well, yeah, don't make a difference now, does it? You know, you just sit there and you revel in your own thoughts as the devil taking over your mind. And yeah, I think it was Jacob actually taught me this prayer. He said, let my thoughts be your thoughts. Praying to God.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good one. So,
But yeah, so the thing is a lot of people, Bones talked about this a little bit. And he said that, that most of the people, when most people see like drug addicts or people who are addicted to whatever, and some of the guys we work with we run these people all the time, and it's just like there's no care for them and all this kind of stuff, and it's like
crackheads.
Yeah, and I mean people talk
heads.
about that all the time, and to
say.
give them no respect and that kind of
I've said
kind of.
it.
But the problem is that some of those people some of those people, they might have asked for it or they might have done it, but a lot of people were just in the wrong place at the wrong time, and were sucked in by that evil and by that crippling of what that could do to you. And to get out of that hole is not something that like you can just do. It's something that everyone around you has to be patient, and has to pray and just be there. But we don't know how to do that because we want to help, as in your situation. You're wanting to help. But like the other thing that you're working against, the reason we want to help, especially as first responders, that's what we do. We want to help. And the thing that we can't do sometimes is the fact that when we have to have patience, the devil's one of his money items is time. And when somebody's struggling with that, the time is unknown. Like you just don't know. Like, I mean, we ran this guy like 6 times in 2 months, and every time it was an overdose, heroin. This is back when heroin was really, really bad. And I mean, we ran this guy 6 times in like 2 months. And I remember some of the things these people used to say about this guy. And this dude was jacked. Like he was fit. And so I'm like, but people would talk about us. Oh, we got to run this scumbag again. Oh, we got to run this guy again. And it's like, what's funny though is they don't. It's okay because we don't look at like alcoholics that way, which alcohol is a drug as much as any of these drugs. It's an addiction.
Way
Same
worse.
thing. I mean, that's what my grandfather went through. That's why he ended up in the situation he ended up with. And so, we run this guy, and then one time he was threatening his girlfriend. He stabbed himself in the stomach and then pulled it back out. And we got there, his guts were on his stomach. He healed from that, and then 5 months later, we ran him again, and he was dead on the floor. And it's like, I mean, he's like, what do you do? And I remember this guy, the first time I ran him, I was a rookie. I was like a 1-year guy. And I remember all the guys giving me a hard time because he was going to the hospital, and he was holding my hand. They're like, oh, you held that guy's hand for him. Good job, Scotty. Good job, Brooks. And making fun of me. But then I think about it, this guy freaking, he obviously had a really bad addiction because the guy was dead 5 months later. And I'm like, I got to start thinking about things like that, you know, like, and Bone said, you know, when the inmates used to help with cleaning up and stuff around the station, he's always like, I met some of these guys, and like a lot of those guys are good people. They're good dudes, you know, like they just made bad decisions. And you think about that, like it's like just because somebody's an addict or has an addiction, it doesn't make them a bad person. But society will tell you they're a bad person. And then what society does on top of that is they use that and then use Christianity against that and saying, well, these are Christians and believers are the ones that look down upon them and they're the ones ridiculing them and talking bad about them. But it's like, no, we got this vision from society, you know, and society's the one feeding it. It's just a shame.
I remember we had an episode with Sergeant Vaughn, and he was talking about addiction. I remember he said something that kind of like a little light bulb went off over my head. He was like, you know, you see that, and most people are looking down on them, but he sees it as like, hey, maybe that is what actually kept him alive another day. And yeah, maybe it's not good, but maybe there's good to come, and that's what kept him alive to get to the good to come.
Yeah.
You know, and I never thought of it that way before because I'm guilty of looking down on them. They did this to themselves. You know, they got themselves in this situation. And maybe we ought to take a step back and be a little less quick to judge them and maybe a little quicker to listen kind of deal. And that really, I mean, it kind of hit me when he said that. I was like, wow, that's crazy to think of it that way. It changes your mindset. But that, you know, y'all talking about that made me think about that. That really stuck out in my mind.
We need to have him back on.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's awesome.
It's that subtle, like wisdom that really impacts you. 'Cause, I mean,
there's
that's
nothing
big.
groundbreaking. I mean, you think about it, and it's like it
It's
makes
so
perfect
simple.
sense.
So
But
simple.
never thought of it that
so
way.
straightforward. Absolutely.
Well, we are glad you told us about that because that's something we can pray about, you know. We'll put it on the prayer list and pray about. But I will tell you, Scripture says several times, you know, and especially in Matthew, it says, blessed are those who mourn because God will bring them comfort, you know, and it talks about all the time. I mean, Jesus wept, you know, like those things are what I think that's one of the things that we've talked about, like the old school dudes.
You talking
They
about when
missed
his best
that.
friend died? When
Huh?
you found out his best friend died? Talking about
Who?
Jesus?
What?
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, Lazarus.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is like showing emotion as a man is a good thing. We're supposed to mourn.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like we're supposed to mourn.
Yeah.
Like it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. And God will give us peace. And like I told Hunter the other night, I was like, there's gonna be times you're gonna be driving around and you're gonna see a spot or something y'all went to and you're gonna break down.
Oh, heck yeah.
I was like, it's gonna happen. I was like, but that's a good thing. I was like, don't look at the negative about how it hurts. Look about the fact that you have that memory that you remembered and that that made you that emotional, that it made you sad inside. But what that's doing is he's still alive, like inside of you. He's still alive. You remember that. And yeah, it hurts and it sucks at the time. But man, think about the fact that you got that. Like, because if you don't have that, his memory's gone. Like it's done. And so when I hear what you're saying, like I already told you, I said, man, it makes me want to tell you that, look, don't blame yourself. You know, obviously that's easier said than done, but what I'm saying is that you weren't trying, you were doing. Okay, you were doing what you thought was best. Whether you were too hard, you know, too persistent or too patient. You know, and we understand that, like not wanting your kids to see that. I mean, you might look at that in a negative way, but the way I look at that is that you don't want them to remember her that way. Yeah. So that's a positive thing in itself. Again, you know, it depends on how you look at the situation. But it's good to talk about.
Absolutely.
How well that leads, I guess, into like your mother. So she passed away right like after that.
Yeah, a couple years. She passed away. And I know we all understand this here. She's in hospice care for 13 days. Non vocal. She had a massive stroke, and 13 days. You know, my older sister and I, you know, by her side. But it's amazing how the body can last.
Oh yeah.
And somewhere in that, you know, I made peace with God about that too. You know, praying for relief instead of us being selfish to try to hold on to, you know, somebody that can't, you know, she couldn't even say goodbye. You know, and it's just tough. But like we've all talked about, our faith is questioned, but he's always there waiting on us, you know. And that's what I realize now. But right then, you know, you're selfish. You just you want to kind of control your situation, and you can't. And it's so hard for us to ask for help. I don't know if y'all find that.
Oh yeah.
Are you kidding? Yeah.
And showing emotion, Scotty. You know, you mentioned that earlier. It's try to remain strong for your kids and everybody else around you. And the guys at the station, and you know, the brotherhood, and they want the best for you and want to be able to help you. If I had to do it over again, I would have kind of talked more. Just communicate, you know.
Yeah, it's that being in the station can be another, because you know how it is in the station. You know, like it's there's a lot of testosterone, and but the thing is that I tell my guys, you know, I tell them all the time. I'm like, look, we're gonna bust each other's balls all day long, and if you don't like that, then you might want to go to another station. But I tell them on a real note, if there's ever an issue or problem, or if something's really hurting, you come and we'll talk about it. We'll pray about it. We'll do whatever you want. If you need something, let us know. And it's hard for us as men to do that. I did that when Meg and I lost our, I don't know if you've heard it, but when we lost our two kids, that's one thing that was hard for me, is that I would talk about it, but I wouldn't really talk about it. And then I was trying to do everything myself, like you just said. We try to take all the burden, try to take all the pain, fix it, and think that we can control it, and we can't. And, you know, one thing I want to make sure to them as my guys, now that I'm an officer or whatever you want to call me, but one thing I want to make sure with them is the fact that if somebody makes fun of you or gives you a hard time about asking questions in a training, you don't want to be the 10-year guy that should know something in 2 years. But that happens all the time, because in the fire service, we're terrible about this. We make fun of the guy, if, like, you know, make fun of some guy who says, "Well, I don't know what that is," and then you got 3 other guys that see that, and they're like, you're supposed to know this, you idiot," and they give him a hard time. So then you got 3 guys that didn't say nothing, and so then they never learn how to do it, and so they're 10 years in, and they're like, they still don't know how to do it, but they're not going to say anything now, because now they're 10 years in. It's almost like a lie. You know, the longer you go, the worse it gets. And I said, don't ever let somebody stop you from asking a question. If you got a question to ask, no matter how stupid it sounds, you ask it, or you come to me later and ask it. And if I don't know it, because I might be stupid and not know it, but I'll go make sure we find out what the answer is. And I was like, because if anybody makes you feel inferior or makes you feel like that, they're not your brother at that moment. They might not need to be here, and we'll handle it. I'll address it. I will fight for you every step I can, but I can't fight if you don't tell me. If you just keep going along, I can't pray for you if you don't tell me. My dad got cancer. He didn't want me to tell anybody. I said, look here, old man. It's like, I'm not living under your roof anymore, which technically I guess we're both living under each other's roof because we live together. But I straight up told him, I said, Dad, I hate telling you this. And I know you're going to be pissed and mad at me. But I'm going to tell a lot of people because I can't pray. Those people can't pray for you if they don't know what you're going through. And it's not fair to everybody who loves you. You can be stubborn all you want. You can not like me. You can be upset with me. But I'm not denying Christ and his blessing from multiple people because you don't want to get it out there. I was like, Dad, you got to, and he understood that. But that's how we are. Because we'll sit here and tell you, oh, don't be that way. And then we'll turn around and we'll do it. You know, like, I preach that to my guys all the time. And I tell Megan all the time, I am guilty of that. Especially that year, that bad year. So, but you learn. You unfortunately, you lost a lot, but you've learned something from it. That's a positive. And unfortunately in life, that's how we learn a lot of times is because we either do something stupid or something bad happens and we have to learn from that situation.
And because of that learning and that lesson, I mean, there's no telling how God is going to use that in your life later on, whether it, affects you again or affects somebody else. I mean, it could change somebody's life listening to this podcast.
You never know.
God's sovereign. He's sovereign over everything.
Yeah.
And if we're not learning from stuff like that, it's almost like it's for nothing.
Yeah.
And you don't want it to be for that.
Yep.
You want it to mean something.
Yes. Absolutely.
That's the same thing I say about my two friends that I lost. It changed my life. I said, if something's going to come out of this, I'm going to change who I am because I'm not thinking of other people all the time. That's exactly right.
Respond family. Hate to cut it off right there, but we're out of time. I hope you've enjoyed it so far. Please check back in a couple of weeks for the rest of this episode, part 2 with Firefighter Michael Salain. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Facebook. You can reach out to us there on those platforms with any feedback or questions or prayer requests. We'd be glad to take any of those and read through any of those and discuss anything with you guys. You can also reach us at respondcommunity@gmail.com. That's respondcommunity@gmail.com. We are always open to communication and interaction with you guys. We love y'all. Stay safe out there. Peace.